That conservation meeting for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, 6:30 at the McDonald Brown Conference Room is now open. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for April 15th.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the new public hearing is 321, 323 Manley Street, and I'll read that into the minutes. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 MGL, as amended, the West Bridgewater Wetlands Protection Bylaw and rules and regulation, and the West Bridgewater Comprehensive Stormwater Management Regulations. The Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on May 20th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, on a notice of intent at 321 and 323 Manley Street for a proposed construction of a building with parking, grading, utilities, and septic system. Project includes after the fact filing and replication of BVW. All right. That's you.
Can I use that easel? Should I
Yeah,
do it?
yeah, let's go for it.
What the camera can see.
Yep.
All right, well, Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering, representing D'Angelo's Corporation. D'Angelo's has their offices at 321, 323 Manley Street. The project that we have before you tonight is for a proposed 80 by 120 foot building that would be directly behind D'Angelo's office. So on this plan, well, in fact, I'll just flip it over just so you can get a better view. It's such a big site, it's easier to show everything at
Is
a
this-
larger scale.
Is this where they cleared out the back part
Yeah. Yeah.
by not letting anybody know?
Right, that's what the
this
violation
is the
part of it
violation
is for
part.
the-
Yeah, we
Okay.
weren't gonna talk about that
All
tonight.
right, that's why you could have just walked out.
So this gives you the overview of the whole property. Manley Street at the bottom, the old Somerville Lumber, which is now Prime Source.
Yeah.
This is D'Angelo's offices. They've got a couple of tenants on either side, and a large swath of land behind. They do have a edge of pavement that goes behind for truck circulation. So the plan is, the proposal is an 80 by 120 foot building in this back corner of the property. The main reason for the building is they've got a tenant that has a few properties that they occupy in West Bridgewater. It's Primo Medical. They have an office at Manley and West Street, I think,
Junction
right at the
there.
intersection.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a nice looking building. Then they, two buildings down, they also have space there, and they were a real high-tech medical firm. They do a lot of heart replacement items. I'm not
Interesting.
sure exactly if it's valves or exactly what it is, but it's really technical work, and their business is booming. They need more space, so this 20,000 square foot space would be for them to move into as they expand their building, and they'll still be occupying their existing buildings as well.
Sure.
So they're not going to vacate one and come to another. So that's ultimately what they're looking for. So now that we have an overview, I'm just going to flip to the section of our site that you guys would be most concerned with. So this is the back corner of the D'Angelo's building, with Manley Street again being way down at the bottom. The green highlighted line is the BVW as delineated by Brad Holmes at Environmental Consulting and Restoration. As you can see, it's pretty much surrounded by the wetlands. This long finger of wetlands is the violation area. So over the winter, you lose track of time, December, January, somewhere around there, this area was filled. Violation was issued by Tim, and the plan, they had plans all along to go ahead and do this. That really fast-tracked the plans. We spoke to Tim, let him know that we were hoping to come in with a site plan, so we kind of made the decision to deal with the violation order through this notice of intent at the same time. So just a little background to the property, I guess. The building was constructed back in the 80s. So this large finger that comes down, also this little finger, and I believe there's another one a little bit down the road. Those were basically created by the drainage that was constructed during the build out of the property. There's a catch basin here, again, back from the 80s, and the catch basin just directly discharged overland and basically created that long finger of the drainage getting out to the larger wetland that runs north and south along Route 24. Same thing with this one, and as I said, I think there's one a little further down near the billboard that you guys had permitted years back. So, so that's kind of the beginning of that wetland area. Obviously, you know, for the time being, if we can forget that it was filled in, looking at developing the property, that long finger really makes it difficult to do any kind of a large building back here with any kind of truck traffic, just for the circulation around the building. It kind of stops us from being able to use that.
Was it actually so it was a ditch?
It was pretty much you know, you'd call it a swale, I would guess.
But was there trees out of it?
Oh, yeah, it was
So there was a
vegetated,
good
it was, yeah.
trees and
yeah,
everything, so they cut?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known it was there necessarily. I mean, you know, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure in April there was probably water running, you know, it's a big parking lot. The big parking lot all drains to these 3 catch basins, so I'm sure during the wet season and during heavy rains, there was, you know, discharge running through there and water running through there, obviously enough water to
So
create a wetland over 40 or 50 years of time.
can I ask maybe kind of a smart kind of question, but knowing that these people wanted more space,
Yep.
did they come to D'Angelo's? Did the people come to D'Angelo's and then all of a sudden, you know, D'Angelo says, I think we can make it work? Then they did that? Then they cleared it? Or what was the whole purpose of clearing that spot? Because that seems like that might have been the only reason. If they said no, they probably wouldn't have been able to get them people there. Is that what it was? Is that the whole?
I mean, it's
Thing?
hard for me to say no, because
That's how I'm taking it as.
Yeah, you know, I mean, realistically, you know, knowing how we do things, how the town of West Bridgewater does things, you know, I would have looked at this and said, yeah, it's approvable. We can probably get permission to fill this wetland in to do some replication.
So why didn't you come in front of
Well,
us
that-
before and do that? Because
you
from
know,
what I
people
can
get-
see is like, I'm thinking to myself.
That's why Scott got
This isn't
involved,
gonna-
because
this
I
isn't gonna
said, hey,
happen.
there's a
If
violation.
it was up to me, this isn't gonna happen. Then, you know,
Yep,
they lost they lost somebody to rent.
yeah.
Hey, they
yeah.
didn't have the space, that's their problem,
Yep.
not my problem.
And, you know, so that's how I look at it.
Okay.
I look at it, forgetting the violation and saying,
Yeah.
yeah, this is doable. That's a finger. I can certainly tell you a story as to how that finger was created, and it's, you know, I think it's legitimate. It's, you know, the
Yeah.
drainage dumps there.
Yeah,
It's
you know,
always been a low spot on the
Yeah,
property, so
exactly.
it just.
And for my
and-
dealings with you folks, you know, all right, they're reasonable. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna fill that in. We're gonna give you 2-to-1 somewhere
and
else.
bylaws
And
change
then-
over the years.
Yeah, in the, you know,
Or
in
three,
the long,
maybe
you know,
3-to-1 in this case.
yeah.
Or
you
maybe
know,
none.
You know, they own these 3 properties up and down the road, you know, so there's plenty of area for mitigation. So, you know,
Jeez.
I would have never
After they
told,
do it.
I would have never told them,
No, I
"Geez,
know.
you've got no shot of getting this done
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
that wetland,
No, I know.
like, you know, like some wetlands or like in some towns.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think, you know, more realistically, people get impatient, they get, you know, I know a
No,
guy.
they just don't wanna lose money coming in, from what I'm
Yeah,
taking it
you know.
as.
A site guy's got a
That's
week
the
or month
thing.
free,
Well,
and
that's
he's-
what it is. I don't have
And
anything
that's
to
just,
do,
it's
so
called greed over
It's
the
more
heck with what's
impatience.
going on.
You know, they certainly know that they need site plan approval from the planning board, need a notice of intent and order of conditions from, you know, so they know they've got a process ahead of them.
So let's process it first.
Doing that, you know, didn't save them anything, or
Well.
it's more, like I said, it's, you know, a combination of impatience and, yeah, our contractor, they had some time
Yeah.
to kill and had some machines, and, all right, yeah, I'm gonna need you anyway, so get out there and start clearing, and, you know, stay out of the wetlands, I know there's a wetland there somewhere, you know, so, you know, so that's as honest as I can be with you.
Yep,
You know, when Tim notified, you know, the contractor notified us of the issue, they obviously stopped work. We, you know, put up a silt sock around the area that they had been filling just to, you know, just to make sure it was protected as it was, you know, just kind of unprotected area there, just so we wouldn't have any erosion problems. And then, you know, in the last few months, we've just kind of fast-tracked our site plan process, as you were just talking, coming in. you know, the stuff does, it just takes months for us to get these plans done, to get to it, and then when, you know, it's just.
Was
it's-
it a functional wetland? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say that, I mean, the finger functioned as just the drainage way to get the water from the catch basin to the larger
so
wetland.
what do you do now? with it?
Well, so perfect, so forget that happened.
And how
My
much,
plan is.
and how many square feet was filled in, just to get an idea?
So the finger is just over 4,100 square feet. So to
Okay.
fill the 41, we're showing a replication area right here of 6,200, a 1.5 to 1 replication in the back here. And that would, you know, that provides us enough room in the back here for a drainage facility.
What if we want more? What would you do?
I would get other area on their abutting properties to,
Is that wetland behind there?
over here.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the wetland.
So how can you
here.
replicate
Well,
some, a wetland
the-
in another
The
wetland?
wetland goes back here.
There's a finger.
Yeah.
Upland that
Oh,
goes
so
out
that
into
little
it.
part right there is an
That-
upland?
That's an upland area, so we would basically fill in that upland area. But there are other areas on their campus, I'll call it, where we could get you to 2 to 1 or more if you felt like more was.
I'm feeling more
was
right now.
more was justified. I
feeling-
understand what you're feeling.
And I'm feeling
Uh,
nothing.
So as I said, you know, was it functioning? I mean, realistically, you know, 60 years ago, it was just a wetland up and down 24. These fingers were created by their construction and them just dumping the catch bases out there. You know, back and this was the early 80s, there wasn't stormwater management. You know, at that point, they got site plan approval, but site plan approval without a drainage design. I mean, that was it. It's a giant parking lot, a big building, and it just overland flows to this, and it just dumps out. There's no
There's no
stormwater
treatment, there's
quality,
no-
there's
yeah,
no
there's-
treatment. So, as we've said on other properties before you guys, the one good thing about these redevelopments, I'll call them, now you get this giant, you know, 5-acre parking lot that has no treatment. Now we're gonna take all that water and get it into a treatment system, so
That's a benefit.
ultimately 2 years from now, when this is constructed and complete, we're gonna have clean water going to that wetland adjacent to 24, you know, which is obviously a better situation for everybody in the end. So, you know, so from an engineering point of view,
Right.
you know, they obviously crack some eggs getting to that point, but in the end, we feel like we're gonna do something that's better for the environment, better for the town. They get a really good tenant, the town gets a really good business to continue growing in West Bridgewater, and environmentally, you guys get ultimately a cleaner wetland to deal with.
Is there a financial fine involved?
No, we haven't,
We haven't
No.
thought of that.
because I knew that an NOI was coming in and that they were in the process
All
of
right,
just
but-
taking time to.
So-
Gotta think
so,
about
Yeah,
that.
so that, like I said, when Tim called us, that was it right away. We got in touch with the McLaughlins who own D'Angelo's. You know, told them obviously you can't do that, and you gotta stop doing what you're doing. And, you know, we told Tim, you know, we're gonna be coming forth with a site plan, and like I said, it's probably been 3 months now, maybe even 4 months. It's, you know, it's been a few months since we've been doing it. We met with the department heads last week, just to get everybody's feeling. You know, nobody had an issue except for you guys. Everybody else was thrilled. So, you know, so that's it. So, you know, we know we've got a process to get through with you guys, obviously.
Right.
You know, just a normal process, going through the drainage, going through the peer review like we always do. Then a second process to get your forgiveness basically on that small issue that we have. And then, beyond that, we need planning board approval, you know, so we still have quite a few steps to go through to get town approvals.
Yeah.
But, you know, we were in a hurry to get this in to you guys, just so you knew we weren't ignoring you. In the next week or so, I do hope to get the application into the planning board to get the site plan approval going, so we can have those 2 peer reviews working.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I
at the
think,
same
I
time.
think we have to talk about a couple of things.
Sure, yep, understood. So that's essentially it. So as I said, it's an 80 by 120 building. The front half of it would essentially be 2 stories, the back half would be more of a warehouse space. Circulation around, they've got plenty of parking on their existing parking lot, plenty of parking proposed on this building to handle the increase. Overhead doors just for small trucks, they don't have 18 wheelers, but more box trucks to bring in to bring in their materials, and then after they assemble it, manufacture it, to ship it out. So just a couple overhead doors on each side just for shipping and receiving. And then, as I said, an on-site septic system, a couple of drainage areas in the back, on the side, and an infiltration area as well. So I think we've got 3 separate drainage systems going on to handle not only our proposed site, but the existing site that's all shed into this back as well. So,
And it's a medical facility, so probably isn't gonna have any, you know, heavy
It's not
manufacturing.
major, they described it at the meeting we had last week, that it was
they assemble the stuff.
assemble parts
Yeah.
together to make
Yep.
the devices.
Yep, but still, they have clean rooms and
Yes.
everybody's
Yeah.
Right.
buckled up in, you know, hazmat suits, and it's, you know, obviously it's going inside your heart, so it's a pretty
Sure.
clean site, so.
Sure.
So how far, like, around the building is the parking lot?
We've got 20, on the backside, we've got a 24-foot travel way in the spaces. On this side, there's 45 feet.
And what's on the other side?
On the other side, same thing, it's 35 feet to there, and, you know, probably 50 feet to this little island that we've got going on there.
So,
And the rest of it is the existing pavement comes in around like this.
that's the existing pavement?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they,
It-
wait a minute.
Some of it's
The
big.
existing paving's right here.
Yeah, right there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, right
So,
there and shoots across,
even if they did leave that drain ditch,
that finger.
they could still make it work. Because they're not gonna have, the parking lot's only going around the building.
I'll show you on the truck turn. It,
Truck turn, but didn't you say there wasn't gonna be 18-wheelers?
you know, we show the truck turn for the fire department, you know, so we show worst case.
Yeah.
You know, just to show that we've got fire department.
That a fire
circulation.
truck can get around
Yeah.
the entire
Yep.
building.
You know, not that they necessarily do, but that's
How
what
many
we're
feet
supposed
do
to
you
show.
need? How many feet do you
Yes.
need? What's
It's
a circle at a,
it's about 100, it's a whale base of 55 feet.
yeah,
So,
but how big do you need for a circle on, like a street?
like 100 feet.
Yeah, so I mean, they
Yeah.
could do it.
Yeah,
I mean, it could, but if you go to the drainage
Yep.
design, I mean, when you have to put the stormwater structures in, that's part of where the problem ended up being.
Okay.
Those, to improve the structures that are there.
so that's the existing, you know,
To be honest with you, then why the heck couldn't they said that upland space in the back where they want to do the replication? Why couldn't they put the drainage out there?
Well, they do have some drainage near it, but they're trying to stay the 50-foot buffer
trying to keep
outside of
To
it.
be honest with you, I would have given them a waiver to work in the 50 to go out there than to fill in that whole ditch. To be honest with you, right?
So, the history of the ditch area, it is a wetland.
Yeah.
What is its value compared to the area out back? The area out back is connected to a much bigger wetland area than
Yeah.
that finger.
But
The finger, I think, to be all honest with, if they didn't have the parking lot and that catch basin there,
yeah, the finger was created by us.
I'm gonna go out and look at it.
yeah, it might not have been as much of a
If we went back to
wetland.
historical, you know, if we went back to aerials from the 70s, you wouldn't see the finger. The
Well, I
finger
understand it was created by us,
Yeah.
but back then you couldn't do anything about it because there was nothing to worry about. It's been working for how long? Granted, it's wetland, but you said you're gonna put the new stuff up, out back there. I can't,
The detention pond back here.
detention ponds
Yep.
out back and create so it's clean water. So,
Well, elevation wise, I mean, so if we forgot
get a
about
pump,
that.
you can pump it out there.
Yeah, nobody pumps drainage. Yeah.
Well, if you won't, it's kind of a,
I mean, this allows you,
it just irks me that they go and do this stuff and then they say, oh, come on, just don't worry about it, you know, it wasn't gonna work anyways, it's just old dirty water going out back, we're gonna clean it up, make it better, forgive us.
Well, maybe
We've-
we'll talk about
we've had it.
financial remuneration of some kind.
We've had this
So
done
there's-
before, and it just pisses me off about it, because it's not the way it should be done. If they don't got the space to rent it to a person, make the building smaller. I don't understand, like we did up on Manley Street across from, Snell's place.
I
They
mean,
want-
the from my point of view, if you guys turn around and say, look, we're not gonna let you fill this wetland and we want you to restore it back to the way it is, we're still gonna put this building here. It won't be as convenient, it won't, won't have the circulation that everybody would want it to have, but we're still gonna do it.
Then
And-
that's, yeah.
And from the town's point of view, and I know it's, you guys have a specific, a specific agenda, you're looking to protect the wetlands, I totally understand
Yeah.
that. But I'm saying, from the town's point of view as a whole, you want these guys there, I mean, it's a major corporation
I'm
that you
for
don't want to
business.
jump to Easton or Brockton.
I'm for business, but make it work. If they want it that bad, they can make it work. Cut the building down, make it work.
So again, if we could go back a year from now before they did
Yeah.
that, I would tell them,
Yes.
the thing is stupid, it's a pain in the neck, it's in the middle of the site, let's get rid of it, you created it back in the 80s, it's not doing us any good, let me fill it in, we'll replicate it, we'll get it through the Conservation Commission, through the peer review, and it'll be better for everybody.
But it's
It'll be
wet.
better for you guys.
But it's wetland, so it's protected now.
No doubt, but I'm saying, similar to the job we had down the road, the same thing, it's got that brook going through it that was, junk and crappy and just had all that stuff going there, and it's a better situation now. I look at this as the same thing.
But it's still there, though.
Yeah,
You just cleaned it out
we cleaned it out and filled it in and piped it.
to a point where it's still there, though.
No question. No, but this would be the same thing. It's still gonna be there. It's just gonna be here, back here. The bottom, I think if I came in here a year ago before this happened, you guys would be okay with it.
You mean to fill it?
To
as
fill
a-
in that
as a
figure,
legal-
because we would make the argument that,
Probably.
like Tim said, it doesn't really have that much value. It's just, it's
Well, I understand,
just
but
a
still.
travel way for the drainage.
Making us look bad.
Environmentally, it's not that.
Just
They're
makes
taking
it-
that drainage now and treating it before it gets to
But it's
the
still making us
wetland.
look bad. We're trying to protect,
That I understand.
and it's just making us look bad by people just doing whatever they want to do, then come and ask for forgiveness after. I don't like that, sorry.
Yeah.
I'd
Nope.
rather have them say, do you think, like you said, if you came in front of us first and said, hey, then we might be like,
I totally
okay,
agree.
that does sound like a good idea.
Yep.
What can you do to make it, but they didn't do that.
Like we did down the street, same
Yeah,
thing. This is
exactly.
what we
They
can
didn't do that.
It's gonna be better, I can convince you guys that it's gonna be better, you agree it's gonna be better, you look at it now, going on 2 years later, it's better.
Yeah.
So
I
I agree.
understand. I
That's
understand.
what I'm
If you
saying.
go back to your client and say, they're not so sure.
Yep,
Maybe the client can come back with some,
some extra mitigation.
something
Yep,
to make it attractive
Yep.
to the town.
yep.
But just, well, the town does it to a point where you were just saying, everybody else is okay with it. It's just this board, this committee, right? See? But it's just saying that we're here, what are we doing? I might as well just get up and go home if that's the way everybody's just gonna be.
Well,
And I'm not trying to be like
no,
a,
I know what you're saying,
But
and
it
again,
just-
I do, I mean, I can't, I totally get what you're saying. On the other hand, if you're looking to protect the wetlands, this is gonna do a better job of protecting the wetlands in the end.
Probably.
Forgetting how we got there.
Probably.
I know, but still,
So
it just
that's
doesn't
what I've
look
gotta
good.
say is, forget about what happened, let's just worry about what it's gonna
Yeah.
look like in 2 years. So, obviously
see-
I've
we'll
got
see
a
what
little
happens.
different point of view than you
I
do.
know,
You
I know.
so-
Yeah, I hear you, I hear you.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
Go for it, yeah.
We forget what happened? I mean, is that the answer in this town?
Well,
No,
no, that's what what we're saying is, for that 4,100 square feet of wetlands, they're gonna have to create more wetlands in the back to make up for it.
It's like
And-
running someone over and then saying, I'll fix it by paying for their surgery. I mean, this type of stuff shouldn't be happening. People
Yeah, we're saying that, we
It
agree.
shouldn't, but it
Yep.
did.
it shouldn't, no.
Well,
And it, however, if
there's a
they
lot
had
that shouldn't be.
come in with a
Yeah.
plan and not touched anything and didn't clear any of it,
that's the thing, I
we
was
would have
saying.
probably looked at it and
Would've
said,
Better,
right,
Yeah.
the taste
Probably
in our
would've
mouth
given
would be
the
much
waiver, yeah.
better
would
to
be- yes,
swallow
at
and
least
to
come
deal
in and
with.
give us a little bit of a,
Because looking
this
at
is what we
it,
wanna do.
No doubt.
treating the stormwater, from the stormwater side of it,
Yes.
is a huge improvement.
Yes.
I mean, right now, it is just going into the catch basins, all the salt, all the oils, all the grease.
But it
and
comes
right
off
onto
the
well.
highways doing the same damn thing.
Agreed. Yeah.
And other parking lots down the street, and the same thing until somebody else does it.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just saying.
You're doing one site at a time, you're making Manley Street better, is what it comes down to. I
Right, I mean,
If they
it's-
do it the right way.
Yeah,
Right,
that's the truth. I mean, that's
Yes,
what we did on
I
the
am-
other end of Manley Street.
that is
So
true.
That 30-acre site is better today than it was 5 years ago.
But, yeah,
If this goes through 3 years from now, this 10-acre, 11-acre site is gonna be better than it was, so yeah, you're taking away chunks at 10 and 20 acre, bites at the apple that are improving the drainage. So over time, 50 years from now, all of Manley Street will be better than it is now.
No, I hear, but we also could said, keep the
The finger.
the finger there. Put in a way to put the detention areas and make it cleaner and dump into that area and make it work to go out back, or even just done it out back
For the new stuff.
for the new stuff, and
So
you're gonna
I-
make it even. You're making it better no matter what. Because what happens on the other side of the building, of the D'Angelo's building on the other side? Where's all that water going to? Into the wetlands where it's all crappy and salty and all that stuff. So it's doing a little bit, but everything mixes.
We're not cleaning the world, we're just
I understand that, but it's,
dealing with half the
yeah.
site yep.
I'm not trying to be a pain, but I'm just trying
No,
to.
I completely understand and, would expect a little pushback. Obviously, they did something wrong, they've gotta come and ask for forgiveness and permission all at the same time, which isn't always easy, so.
How much with the existing site is there extra parking in their existing facility? Is there any?
Yeah,
Okay.
zoning wise, there is,
Okay.
yeah.
Only because if you remember the billboard that was permitted
Yeah.
back in 2010,
Down the
2011?
street.
Mowing it.
It's owned on the same property. So we have a delineation line that was done from them. It doesn't match the one that yours has.
Yep,
It's off by 40 to 50 feet. I did an overlay of it, and basically from the edge of the parking lot, I came up with 280, 90 feet back
Yep.
was where the wetland line was.
yep,
Which may alter where the detention pond and the 50-foot no-touch and everything plays in. And I'm just trying to figure out if there's enough parking space, if you had to, basically if you had to
we
bring.
had to slide the building
Yeah, if
forward.
you had, well, if you had to slide the wetland line
Yep,
to, basically to here,
yep,
what we could do, or what you could do.
I-
So that, to be in all honesty, these flags here and here disappeared.
yep,
They're actually in disturbed
They moved it back
area.
up.
yep,
So,
Moved it back up, right?
right, so the wetland line would come into the property so they have less available space to use, depending.
Oh.
And in all honesty, because they stripped the land, I can't tell whether that old wetland line is real or not.
Yep.
Because it's gone.
yep,
So the Merrill plan that was done for the billboards is the last known accurate delineation that was done.
Mm-hmm.
This one's in flux because, I mean, the finger is pretty probably close to what was there.
yeah.
It's the area along the back.
It's, yeah.
it's
You're
the-
probably saying it's more of that
Yeah,
indent
it-
right through there, where maybe Merrill came more across.
Right.
If we can,
I'll send you the plans,
yeah,
do an
if we can
overlay
get
and
that plan,
see
I'll
what we
overlay it
can.
and put it right on the plan so we can look at it and,
And I mean, in
there's
dealing with
certainly
that,
ability to move
the
it forward.
drainage pipe and the finger,
Yep,
historically, there was never a permit for the pipe that extends currently from here all the way
through.
out.
Yeah, but I don't care about that because
Well, no,
that's like
there's-
the whole town's been like that.
There's
for
now
how
an
long?
18-inch pipe buried underground to take the water out,
Yeah.
and it's been filled. It was never there before,
Yep,
so what I'm saying is if this area was taken back out and the drainage, because you're gonna tie all of this in.
into the
This-
drainage, right?
This disturbed drainage area would be restored back
Yep.
to what it was. So the amount of real disturbance is going to
Is
be
really
from
just this
here
area. Yep,
to here.
Yep.
It's not as what it really looks like on the plans because of the
Is
area that's.
D'Angelo the builder,
Yes.
or
Yep.
they're gonna lease it to the medical?
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Oh, that changes it a little bit.
Right, so I mean, it's,
So, yeah, and we're not taking credit for it, so maybe we should, I don't know, but Tim's right, this whole thing is 4,000 square feet, well, close to half of it is gonna become a wetland again anyways, that we're not counting as,
Above that will be.
yeah, pretty
Right,
much from
from-
here to there, that's all gonna be wetland again anyways, as part of the construction, so
Sure.
realistically, in the end, I guess we're filling 2,000 square feet and replicating
Right.
6, so.
And there's no other way you can put those swales,
Boy, just
the detention areas.
because of the elevations, the elevation down here is like at elevation 85, and the wetland is at elevation 86. So it's kind of, there's no way to drain this back of the parking lot. we had hoped, I mean, 'cause nobody wants to do this and have this island in the middle of truck traffic.
Right.
But there's no way for us to get this drainage all the way around to here or straight through. We've
So there's
gotta,
gonna be an island right there?
yeah, so that thing there is
So
a,
that little piece that was filled in could have stayed there. So you gotta work around it,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense.
No, but that, I mean, that's what we're saying. So we're not, the filled-in area, we're not gonna be using the whole thing. We're gonna put an island here and a big drainage facility there. So now
And you
we've
still-
only really got,
So where the truck's gonna be going? In between?
yeah, exactly, drive right through that way, you know?
Well, what happened if you slid the front island and connected it to the back island?
If we slid this
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, engineering, I don't know
Yep.
whether increasing the size here,
Yep,
and that would shorten the
Shorten
filled
the
area
length, yep.
that was in the front.
yep.
I mean, to make it all work and treat, I mean, just looking at the, 'cause again, as Scott said, this, I mean, they're counting this because it's been disturbed, but it's
So-
all gonna, it's basically restoration
Yeah.
work.
So,
You're not filling it in, you're not gonna permanently leave it.
Yep,
so I understand what you're saying, that thing that was filled in, so the two detention areas, they're basically gonna be dumping the water where the finger
The
was.
Finger was.
right, exactly.
So like you just said, so if you can move that front one up,
To here,
connected to
and then
that,
all they would be filling would be from this catch basin to
So
somewhere.
the front
right.
half, yeah.
That
and how much would have been filled? From, if you could figure out from that catch basin to that,
1,500,
so 1,500 square feet, and if we can get to the back part,
you're replicating 6,000. So
you do
get a
6,000 up there and move that back so you can connect it. We keep basically of that filled
the intent
in
of the finger
finger,
that was
that's
there.
still gonna be used still, right?
Yep,
As a water flow to where it's supposed to be going,
yep.
to where originally
Right.
where
The pipe will still be there.
it'll
Catching
still
the
be
water.
there and it's still
Right.
gonna be used as that, as long as it's not gonna be filled over as a parking lot, that's what I thought it was gonna be, parking
Yep.
lot.
Yep,
Cause I thought all that was gonna be
Thought the whole
covered,
thing
was
was
gonna
gonna
be
be
covered with
paved, I
parking
get
lot.
you. Yep.
So if you can kinda retain that as in wetland still anyways, cause you're not gonna be able to drive over it and do it, it's still gonna be, try to do that and see what happens. And then replicate 6,000 square feet out back.
and then I can at least sell it to you as a 4-to-1 replication.
And I can understand
Yeah.
that 1,500, okay. We can work with the people, and I understand what you're saying. I still don't like them coming in doing what they did. But if
Yeah,
we
the
can
after
get
the fact part's
less,
the part that's,
I understand,
It-
yep,
but if we can get the 1,500 square feet, if that's what it is about,
yep,
that they filled in, I can understand, we do work with people on other developments to make it work. And we can get a bigger gain in the back.
yep.
Yeah.
I can understand that, because I thought the whole thing was gonna be covered with,
Was just gonna be a big paved
The
area.
gonna be a
area in
big
the
paved
front.
area with
No.
everything going in with drains underneath it.
Right. Oh, that
So I
makes
could,
sense.
I would think about that, because then maybe fine them for doing that 1,500, fine them for filling in that 1,500 square feet of, just
well,
for,
what's weird is they buried the pipe.
Yep,
There's still water on top of the pipe.
Yep.
So,
take it out and just use it as
right,
a
well,
regular.
that's why with this design, if we can come up with it,
Don't
that
put the pipe in there, use
they would
it
have
as a
still
regular
come
thing.
before us applying for the replication and the filling, which they're allowed to under the stormwater
Sure.
regulations, that they can fill up to the 5,000 square feet and replicate it somewhere. We asked for the 2-to-1 or more. It's the fact that they didn't come before us and started doing the work.
Okay, so then, all right, see if we can do
It's-
that.
Yep.
And my suggestion, I don't know, this is just me, I would say fine them $4,000 or whatever that square footage is that they
Well, can you do
took
that?
from us. Why couldn't we? That's,
I could tally up the days and the square footage and we can,
for
They
for
could
doing,
be-
for,
They'd probably be amenable.
it's a
to that.
violation for what they did, so they gotta, it should be a fine.
there's a penalty.
Yeah.
So if they can, whatever they filled in, took out whatever, 4,100 square feet, whatever it is, find them that 4,100 square feet, use that, push it back up, and then see what they say to that, and maybe we can think about possibly that happening, because I don't mind, I can understand working with the people doing it, but
so we've got
But
two
there's
things
gotta
to
be
deal with.
some-
One, the
but there's
violation,
gotta
and
be
two,
some
the project
replicate-
as a whole.
Yep,
So
yep,
it's-
kinda two separate.
Right.
yeah, there's gotta be some
Well,
kind of
we haven't
violation.
seen the whole project
Yep.
yet.
I mean, I get, yeah. Because if you,
So there's a financial plus replication 3-to-1.
Yep.
It's up to be
Yep.
3-to-1, so. Yeah,
All right.
because I mean,
that's reasonable.
Well, perhaps, before we send it out for review.
Yep, I'll get you the
tweak it,
plans,
massage
we'll
it,
get the
let's come back
tweaking
for
it.
another meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get your feelings on that. Let's
You'll
get
talk
comfortable
to
with what
them.
we're
see what
doing.
they have to
Yeah.
say
And then
too.
we can send it out for peer review once we know what we're doing. No
Yeah.
sense getting to somebody and
No.
then a month from now saying, we're
We've changed
doing
the,
it again.
Because there
So-
shouldn't be no violation for what they did. There should be a violation for something. And that should be a fine for what they did. That's my opinion,
Okay.
but that's how I'm thinking,
I agree.
so. Because I mean, hey, I'm not for business. I want business in town because it helps balance everything.
Sure.
But I want it done, at least my opinion, to do it the right way.
I understand.
And if they gotta work at it, they gotta work at it, because it's not just gonna come in, oh, this is what we're gonna do, and say, all right, see you later.
So they would understand that's a penalty.
I would hope so.
Okay.
They've been around a while, D'Angelo's.
Yep.
They know,
Okay.
they've done stuff, they know.
Yep.
All right,
So see what they have to say to that, and then come back and we can
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. If we
So
can come
you'll
back
s-
for the next meeting or, whenever you can get us on the agenda with a new plan that we can discuss.
Yep.
And then, get more comfortable with it
Yeah.
and keep talking about both issues, the drainage and the site plan and the violation issues. We
Right.
can talk about the two of them once we have a different design.
And Carol and Steve, how do you feel about that?
I'll speak. Lee, I want to thank you for your, for bringing up the issues that you brought up, made it clear to me. And for Tim, I want to thank you also for being able to help understand a little bit more. So I'm okay with where we're at.
okay.
And how about Steve?
I'm fine with what's going on, no problem whatsoever.
Okay,
Redo the plans, bring them back next meeting, we'll look at them.
Or
okay,
whatever.
yep. All right.
so
So we
I would
can just-
recommend we approve to hire 53G, but we'll wait on sending any plans out. I'll get a couple quotes.
Till
and-
they're final, yeah.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to hire 53G.
Now,
Yep, we'll hire them, we won't send it out for
Yeah,
review, but
yeah, hire
I have to get the quotes and.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to continue to the
Now,
next
do you
hearing.
wanna, the next meeting would be the 3rd,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's right after the holiday and everything else going on. Is that gonna be enough time, or do you wanna go to the 17th?
How about the 17th?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue to June 17th.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Okay?
right,
Yeah,
sounds good.
that'll give me time to get
That-
it done,
right.
get it
Yeah.
to you at least a week ahead of time so you can
Yep,
kick it around.
get comments and
Yeah.
send it out.
Yep.
and-
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
all right. Thank you, folks.
And the
And
next
you'll
one is,
work up a potential
Yeah,
financial.
the numbers,
thing,
and
yeah.
I'll send that out to.
all right, and the next one is a continued public hearing for 506 West Center Street.
And they have requested continuance to the 17th of June.
And I'll entertain a motion to continue to June 17th.
Moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
And the next one is 124 Bryant Street for a request for abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for confirmation of wetland resource under WPA, Wetland Protection Act.
Walk out the door and come back in.
So again, Scott Farrier, Homegrown Engineering, we're before you folks at least a couple months ago, kind of in the middle of the winter. This is the property, the farm behind 124 Bryant Street. Charlie Macy has purchased the property and is looking to develop the property. The first step in the developing is to get the wetlands flagged, located, shown on a plan, and then to have you folks agree with it. So as I said, we filed
In February.
yeah, back in February, and then of course, shortly thereafter, we got snow and ice and everything right afterwards.
Right.
So we waited for a while for it to thaw out. We got out there, Tim had some areas that he disagreed with the botanist on. We finally got everybody together, had a botanist with Ken Thompson, who's the botanist, and with Tim, and came up with some adjustments to the line, primarily in this area, a little bit there. Those are really the two biggest areas that we changed and adjusted. And then there was also previously a notice of intent that was filed for this property here at 158 Bryant that had a kind of a finger of wetlands on our property, but that was shown on that plan that you folks approved a few years back for a septic system. We didn't have that shown on the plan, so we added that wetland area and put the note that it was as you folks accepted on that septic repair. So that's what we're looking for at this point. It's just confirmation of the wetlands line.
All right.
Just, not, I don't know if this has, it doesn't really have anything to do with it, but I don't know if you can answer or not. But the brick house that's there, are they planning on tearing that down?
No, the hope is to keep it.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good, because
remodel
that's,
it and keep
yeah,
it.
because
So
that's a
that-
good,
Yeah, I think we're a little bit unsure. I think the first time we came in,
Yeah.
didn't really know. But since then, from the survey work, I think there's, the way it's situated, we can basically come up with a new lot, but keep the house here
Yeah.
and have a subdivision road come on this side of the house.
Yeah.
So the house
that'd be
will,
good, because that'll look good done over.
yeah, exactly. It's, it's a good size, it's an old house, and obviously it's expensive to tear them down and to
Yeah.
rebuild them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the plan is to keep it.
All right, so you're okay with the,
Yeah, I'm okay
Elimination.
with the line. Like he said, I met with Ken out there, we walked it, and we looked at the soils and stuff and made a few adjustments and.
yeah, you said something to me about it before, okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll entertain a motion to issue order of resource area delineation.
Moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay,
sounds
thanks,
good.
guys.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night. Appreciate it.
Two.
You too. And got some stuff to sign first, but before that, if you'd like to say something,
Oh, yeah.
what's going on, about anything?
Actually, I'm not supposed to be here tonight, my attorney was supposed to be here.
Is this on the agenda or?
This just falls under other
I would
business
suggest
coming in.
that
It wasn't a,
listen to.
yeah.
Yeah,
I really would. He was supposed to be here, he ate some bad salmon for lunch. He's not here. But I'm just gonna add a couple of things.
yep,
I already went over this with you people before, something, okay? I also sent you some information over the weekend.
Yep.
Okay. Now, we know right from the start, the Verassos did not follow any of the rules they were supposed to, okay? I made multiple attempts working with Tracy Aldrich and with Tim, trying to get information as to, why this was happening. The grade was building up, water was coming in, either way. We know throughout it, and I just don't want to be interrupted, we know throughout this that every time that I mentioned it, okay, I was told that, several times I was told that you didn't have you were looking for a new as-built, Tim, in August. And I said, why would you be looking for a new as-built now when that one was signed? I said, the original, it was already done. I said, why is anyone coming and correct this? And the thing that amazed me and my boy the most is that no one came out and looked at this, from my point of view.
nobody in the town?
No,
Okay,
not from my point, from my eye.
oh, all right, yep,
I was on the phone with Tim. Tim told me he had no access to an as-built. I said, I have access. You said Rob wasn't in that day. I said, I have my as-built here. I said, would you stop by my house, please, and we'll look at it. Now, I know you already have had pictures at that point because Ed Jacobs told me you requested them in September, okay? I have pictures and videos of my yard flooding. And not only all of this, but throughout this entire process, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but these people have been allowed to happen. Whether people are afraid to deal with them, whether there's something going on, I don't know. I really don't care. But I'm gonna tell you something right now. When I was here last time, everybody was so concerned, and it was gonna be taken care of. I was on February the 18th, I brought photos, I brought pictures, I did everything. I also have to say that I was told, which you know, that Tim wanted me to come to a meeting without plans, without engineer, and that he would draw some pictures of each house to a line in between. And that way, you know, we would just decide that way, and the Barrasos could then apply for their administrative storm permit, and then just put a swell in, okay? In the meantime, what we know about this is that several things happen. Okay, first of all, the Barrasos built that property up. A third grader would have known it. As I mentioned last time, for weeks, it was being built up, the trees were removed, and it was being built up gradually. There's pictures and videos you haven't seen, which I will forward to you, because you as the commission, Tim works for you, you need to know what's going on. I think I made myself very clear last time that first of all, I asked why. I had Ed Jacobs, PMP Consulting and Engineering, come to my property. That was first week of September. Couldn't believe what he saw. He sent a colleague to double check just to make sure, okay? He contacted Tim, told Tim what was going on. It should be a cease and desist. Tim said he'd put a cease and desist on that.
Which you did, right?
Yeah, they,
No, he put a verbal one.
Oh, did they obey by it?
right, they stopped doing any more
No,
construction.
they-
They had to stabilize
No,
the
they-
site at that point because
No,
it
they
was
didn't.
all,
No, they did not.
They didn't stop doing anything?
No. They continued doing things, and see, you're contradicting yourself, because I have a November tape. You gave me permission to tape you on the phone, and believe me, it's a wealth of information.
and after November,
Wait a minute, let me get this, I'm just saying.
No, that's fine.
It has all of this on it, but let me finish. This was something, at the time, I said that, why weren't they given a cease and desist? And you stated, because they were working with Jason Youngquist on a plan, on a corrective action plan, okay? Never decided to call Jason Youngquist to see if there was a corrective.
Is that the engineer? No, who's that?
He is the engineer for that.
Oh, he is the
he
engineer.
was the engineer that designed the septic system
Okay.
that was approved.
So, I called Jason.
Okay.
Jason told me, he said there were no provisions for stormwater, for much changes in grade. There was no provisions for runoff in that. He said, and you all, I believe, have copies of that from last time.
I got a bunch of
He
stuff.
goes into detail
Yeah.
about what was done, how he contacted the Barrasos about it after he spoke to me. They had not been working with anyone, the Barrasos, okay? I found out that Tim contacted them, told them that he would work on a drainage of a corrective issue with them, and they didn't, okay? Second, at that particular point, and they did continue to do work, because they've done several things after that. As far as after that, then I began getting Tracy Aldrich involved, and I had a conference meeting, a call with her and Tim, and I explained everything to them. Now, anyone looking at this who knows, probably a 12-year-old, would know that this property was decimated, okay? The trees were pretty much all removed, and it was raised day after day, hour after hour, week after week, filled and filled and filled. And I'm talking filled. A driveway was also added. I called the building department and I told them, they said, there's no law for that. I said, okay. They said, but you might want to call Tim about the trees. I called Tim about the trees, and he called me, and he, if I could get back to him, he says, no, that's not an issue. Fine. In the meantime, I had been in contact with Rob Casper. I got the as-built plan, and Rob Casper told me, I told him how they had broken through my property. I had videos of them dropping a giant tree in my yard, smashing my things. I have videos of my tree being removed with a crane because of it. I have pictures, which the last engineer who was here, okay, showed where the water comes in, because I was getting so much water. If it rains and I stand over there, I'm gonna send you those too. 5 feet going this deep, okay? So, and you can see, what happened was, I brought up a bunch of loom from the back of my yard, the best I could, because I'm not well with my arthritis and stuff. And I put mulch up there, try to keep it from, because nothing else was happening.
Washing it out.
I will send you pictures where you can see that that mulch has been moved out 10 feet. I can send you pictures of half the shrubs that were destroyed by them coming into my property because it wasn't secured.
So those shrubs were on your property?
What's that?
Those shrubs are on your property?
Oh, yeah, they knocked their fence down
Oh.
into my property. And
Isn't
at
that,
the
wouldn't
same
that be
time-
more of a civil action
No, because.
between you two?
No, not really, because they.
Sounds like it.
No, because they did not, no, they did not secure the property, the leaching field, and I have that from Tim right on tape. They should have secured it, and they didn't.
What do you mean by secure?
They didn't put the.
When they first started the septic system repair, there was no erosion control, and that was part of my requirement when I told them that you can't leave an open septic system, but you need erosion control to protect the property.
And when that sort of thing is reported
Yeah.
rightfully, which I did report it right away.
Yeah, then it's-
Everything's supposed to stop, Boston's supposed to come down,
Yeah.
no one reported it. I went to Rob Casper, Rob Casper had told me, he said that, everything is fine there. I said, well, when was the last time you went there? And he said, July, when I did a perk test. I said, really? And, I had been on the phone with Tracy Aldridge, and, this is when, Tim was on the phone too, and we were on a conference call, and I said to her, I said, Tracy, I explained the whole bit, everything that's happened. Because in the meantime, what they did also when that cease and desist was supposed to be on, they took their downspouts, okay, and I know you people like water to be away from property, I don't mean you put it in my property. They buried drains 20 to 30 feet away from their house to the edge of my property in the leaching field. I have videos of it, I have pictures of it. He tells me to F off when I told him.
Into your leaching field? What do you mean?
His leaching, the brand new leaching.
Oh, the leaching field, the cut.
And
From off.
when Jason Youngquist came to my property originally with his son, he said, I want to see where your drain field is, and I want to see where your septic is, because I want to make sure there's no problems. Well, there were no provisions for those. So those were buried. They're buried, and there was a giant hole not far from my property and not far from the pipe where the leach field is. That's where everything went, they're covered with tar. Okay? And I would have thought if someone came out and looked at that, because Tracy sent, supposedly, I have the date, Tim and Rob went, said everything was fine. Tim said that he didn't feel that there was more than 5,000 square feet, it disrupted.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the meantime, let's see, we go to November, Tracy Aldridge says, what do you think we should do about it? And I explained it. Now, this is a woman who already had pictures of flooding water.
What's Tracy's role in this?
She's a town planner.
Yeah, what's
But she's a
her
lawyer
role?
too,
though?
right? Isn't she a lawyer?
Town planner.
Yeah,
No,
well,
but how did-
her
why is she
involvement was
involved?
because she's in charge of inspectional services between the Board of Health, Conservation, and
Okay.
Building, so that,
Yeah, so I told her, I explained everything, I talked about the cease and desist, I talked about the work going on, I talked about the Verassos, told Tim they didn't know about the stormwater.
Have you talked to the town administrator at all about any of this? Or- There's so many players in this
Yeah,
thing. that-
too many.
And
Yeah.
my question, just to, sorry to interrupt, but the Verassos and the other, was it the young, was
so
it?
the Verassos are the owners of the house.
And the Anchor excavation company, they own both.
It said, so they're a construction company.
They're a construction
Excavation.
company, but he owns the house.
Okay, so they did the work.
They did the work.
So do they have all, I mean, they should know,
Their licenses.
They're licensed septic installers,
So
they're
they should
licensed
know what-
contractors.
Yeah.
They-
Licensed and septic installs, but I can tell you that they lost one of their years ago, they were barred from the state for 3 years because of the work they did and other things, which is online, so they can't sue me. As a matter of fact, Governor Salucci at the time, with the father was owner of part of this with his brother, construction company, and he used that as a guide to not hire, okay? That's besides the point. The point is, so a verbal cease and desist, they kept going on. I was told that they were going to be doing, there would be a meeting. I kept being told there was going to be a meeting. Ed, I kept calling Ed as well and Tim. I mean, I have every phone call. I have emails like this. I have phone calls. I have them logged. I have everything. Okay.
Yeah.
After that, that's when Tracy had said to me on the phone when I was on the phone with Tim, that, what do you think we should do about it? I said, well, I think you should get an engineer down here to find out where those drains go and find out what's going on down here. And she said, are you willing to pay for it? That's what she said to me.
Who, you?
Yep. Yep.
Well, that should be, this,
Yep.
from what it sounds like to me, it's like these guys
This is my
should
lawyer
be
said this is
taking care of this stuff.
I can't use the words what he
Yeah.
said this is, but
Yeah.
let me tell you something.
I mean, this is all on their fault. I mean, this is all that, all
But
on them.
it's also, wait a minute, it's also because they were allowed. When I called because they was doing this stuff, nothing was done. When I called because pipes were being buried, nothing was done.
Beyond the
A
cease and
A
desist.
cease and desist,
So, yeah.
right. Not only that, Tim, I found out afterwards, issued them a general stormwater permit with a blank application.
What do you mean blank application?
A blank.
It was at that point, we thought it was under 15,000 square feet, so it was an administrative stormwater permit. When I came back in from a vacation, the paperwork was sitting on my desk. And at that point, I had no knowledge that there was any
It was
dry
blank.
wells put in for the stormwater for the roof runoff.
Yep.
And that's
It's
what I was looking for, an
blank.
as-built, so that I could find out from the engineer that was
can't
certifying
issue a
it as part of the
stormwater
septic
permit.
system.
You
I'm
can't-
talking, wait a minute,
You can't
please.
issue a stormwater plan with a blank application.
Right.
And that's.
So
the
I was
thing.
waiting,
Yeah.
at that point, it was already installed, the septic system. And I was looking to find out from an as-built plan from the septic system, what was actually put in the ground and installed. All the septic system, when I found out in late September, early October that was there, was just the septic system. There was nothing else on the plans installed with it. Rob
Okay.
Casper had seen the septic system. At that point, that was what was signed off on. So we didn't know that there was this dry well, and thankfully,
But
John
isn't
had
it,
pictures of it so that we
You
knew that
guys
there was
knew
piping
9/2
going
that-
in.
You guys knew on 9/2 that those pipes, I sent pictures of them being buried.
Right, that there was-
On 10/2, Tim issued a general, administrative stormwater permit that's just blank.
And that was based because it was under 15,000. Since, after
But-
that, I believe it was November,
So,
that
an application.
Eddie went out and had his engineers to shoot the actual disturbed area, which came over to
That comes
17 or
later.
18,000 square
But
feet.
that
but
comes
isn't the
later.
permit supposed to indicate specific of what is supposed to be done or
It didn't have
taken care of
names.
on that permit?
Right, and that's why I needed the paperwork in-house to determine whether it was a general or an administrative. I was under the assumption, looking at the plans that were done for the permitted, not the as-built, but for the permitted separate repair, that the disturbance was gonna be between 5,000 and 15,000 square feet.
And the,
I needed to have something documented so I could actually look at it and see to determine it. Once we looked at it and figured it out, it was well over the 15, that became the general stormwater permit, and that's what we had asked them
and
to
they
file
did this,
for.
and they did this after you issued that permit?
Right,
I mean, they did this
they
before or
filled
after?
out, right, it was, they had already done, basically they had already done all the work.
So they did the work before everything was done?
Right.
Just
But
give
that,
them-
but that's not the point.
No, I know
the
what you're
point
saying, but
is-
it's blank, it shouldn't have been
The
blank.
point
Right.
is that on 10/2, a stormwater plan was issued without a filled-out application. Okay, totally against the bylaws, totally against state laws. And whether you were out or not, you signed that stormwater plan. Let me finish, because I don't want to be interrupted, I really don't. I'm gonna tell you, because I can prove everything here that has happened. And I'm not gonna go for it, I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna.
don't
I
blame
think
you. I
people
wouldn't go
thought
for
it
it
was
either.
gonna go away by now, I really do, I think.
You live
people
right
thought
next to
it
the
was gonna go
crap.
away.
You shouldn't have to live there.
So, it continued like this, and so that was the first issue. That also, on that plan that was issued, the administrative stormwater permit, it was basically the Verassos having the say about everything that goes on. Okay, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, they're gonna do this, they're gonna monitor it. And, he added the raised driveway, which he told me before, excessive parking, which he told me before had nothing to do with any of this, because, to cover them. So they would be, because they raised the driveway right away, which causes flooding in my front too. So that was added. The driveway was added, and land space was added to that. In other words, so things were added to that.
And was it paved too? Was everything all paved?
No, it's that crushed stone, but what's happened
No, I
is.
understand.
Yeah, so before, you could see the entire foundation of the people before, now it's like this. So that's another issue, so we move on from this, and I end up having an engineer come down, look at it. In the meantime, I'm still being told about as-built, things like this. There's just so much, but, so I am then told, over and over again that we're still looking for an as-built on this, So I said, what's going on? I just don't understand this. So I'm told by Tim that he has spoke with Jason Youngquist, and Jason Youngquist, he was still waiting to hear from him. He never ever heard from him every time he called. When I called, I got. So I called him. I actually, at this point, I had already spoken to him, and that's before, in September, beginning of September, when they were burying the drains, the things. And that's when he said, I will go to the Brassos, I will tell them, and then he moves on to, and when December finally rolls around, I said, that's it. I sent a detailed email to Jason Youngquist, and he again says he brought it to the attention of the Brassos. He did not hear from them. He told me he hadn't heard from Tim at all. He also sent me an email in great detail saying that they did not follow this. In nowhere in that septic plan were there provisions for storm drainage. There was minimal raise of, that wasn't supposed to be raised, no driveway was supposed to be added. There was supposed to be no buried stormwater drains. And he says those were not part of his septic plan. He said, I will send I will contact them again and see if they will want me to do a storm drainage thing to them, okay? No, never, they didn't contact him, okay? So, I'm being told over and over again that, well, we're gonna look into it, and I told you about, in the meantime, it was offered to me to come in and don't need to use any plans, we'll just take care of it that way. In the meantime, everybody had pictures. They had pictures of my yard being flooded, okay, basically. And in December, let's see, I have the date, January, just give me 1 sec, okay? November 21st is the conversation, November 20th. Tim just basically goes into everything. He talks about, it's a wealth of information. It's all I'd have to play. And it's very long. He gave me permission. Perfect. I finally called Ed Jacobs. I said, Ed, I'm getting sick and tired of this crap. I said, I've had it. He says, okay. He says, I'm going to call Tim. We're going to have a meeting. We had a meeting here, conservation meeting. I have it on tape because it was a conservation meeting. During that meeting, Ed Jacobs said, you know what, I'm going to get some people over there to find out how much has been disturbed. He says, I'm pretty sure it's way over 15. I have a giant map, I had it here last time, but it shows that almost the entire property was disturbed.
Which is about how much square feet? Yeah.
The entire property is, I think, 26,000, and he determined by the minimum was like 16 to 18, like really disturbed. At that point, he and I and Tim talked, and Tim at this point said that he was gonna send a violation letter, okay? And that in that violation letter, because we talked about it, I said, what happens when these people don't do anything? I mean, they had a cease and desist, they paved the whole front. You know what I mean? There were people Palmersdale last week, fitting pipes in and out of the house. No permits, I came here, no permits. Instead, when I mentioned that I had rain in my yard in September, Rob Cass was upstairs saying, it hasn't rained. This is some crap I've been dealing with, okay?
It seems like there's multiple departments.
It's a multiple mess, and I'm telling you right
And
now.
we're just one small piece of it.
You're one piece of it, but there's the biggest piece.
You know, there's only,
And he works for you. So, after that particular point, we were told that there was gonna be he was gonna try to find someone to do the plan. Maybe Jason Youngkis would be willing to do it. He was gonna send that plan to, send it off to the Verassos, too, and see if they would agree, okay? Oh, also in the meantime, I mentioned prior, I don't know if I mentioned prior to this, back then, after they said they weren't gonna do a swill, they said, yeah, sure, we'll put a swill in now.
I thought that was the issue. Swale.
That's part of the issue, the whole yard, there's ample floodage, because they're raising the driveway and they're raising the grade. This yard, the whole property was raised. Plus, there's underground burial that are not supposed to be there. So what happened was, I repeatedly asked people to come down. Tim said the swale's working great in the yard, John. It's working beautifully the way it works. I'm gonna send you pictures of those swales, so you can see that the property goes like this, and they come down right into my yard. They're ski slopes, okay? Not only that, so we were told that I said, well, what happens if they don't do any of this? Because they don't seem to follow any rules, these people. Tim says, well, if this is an administrative storm issue, he said, it's a whole nother ball of wax.
That's right.
He says,
That's when it comes
he
to.
said, then, he says, what happens is, well, we put a lien on their house, okay? Not me, we put a lien on their house.
As the town.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of remedies. We have someone come in, we've done it before, we would have someone come in and their house would be on a lien, have someone come in, this is all on tape, do any corrective action that needs to be on your property, and they end up having to pay for it, okay? That's part of what was mentioned. So also in the letter was supposed to be, I said, well, these people can't be trusted. What happens when they get this plan? Who's gonna watch them? Tim said, well, he would be there. I said, well, Ed Jacobs said if he would, he would be there to make sure, but I haven't heard much from him. So he also suggested that the state has people that are certain agents that come, that the Verassos would have to pay to oversee. We did, that's what we basically found out, how much over they were. Let's see, they failed to acknowledge what needed to be done. He said it's a whole ball of wax. That was the corrective action. I says, and it was also, we need to find out where those drains are. Now, during March 18th meeting, between 13 minutes and 40 seconds and 14 minutes and 28 seconds in the recording, Tim states that he's waiting because the plan is he's still waiting to hear, from the engineer, that the Verassos have accepted, no, that he's done with the plan and he's gonna have the design, very, very soon, okay? Let's see, and he also says in that meeting at that point that we need to know where those drains are too.
Yeah, it sounds like you do have to find out what those drains are, because that's the whole issue with everything.
That the drains and
And the swale.
it's really, it's a mess. And part of it was, the provision was that they were supposed to be supervised, and they did, okay? I actually hadn't heard anything since I was here, other than, I hadn't heard much at all. The last time I heard was when I watched the March 18th. I was here on February 18th. At that point, the commission says, well, we'd like to know within a month what's gonna happen. So I found out what was happening on March 18th by watching that in a 20-second thing. Nothing done at that point, so I finally, I did call Tim a few times. He said he hadn't heard anything yet. He's waiting. He kept saying, Jason's out, he's gonna call me when he gets in. Jason's out, he's gonna call me when he gets in. So I don't know what's going on. He says to me, okay, so what do? I call again. I call Jason, I get her secretary. She tells me that's been done, and those were sent out. We never heard back from the Verassos. Okay, again, I'm doing this stuff, okay? I can tell you right now, between, how much more do I need to explain? This is a giant mess that needs to be corrected. I have 2 recordings that explain everything. I mean, Tim, does your reputation mean anything to you? I need to know. I mean, throughout this whole process, you told me things. You never checked to make sure the stormwater, you never checked to make sure that they were following this. You never checked to make sure that when you issued a cease and desist that they actually did stop. You never, when you kept saying that they didn't disturb much, it was obvious what they disturbed. I mean, when you told me they were working with him, you never checked.
Well, they're
I
between
checked.
6,000 and 18,000 square feet. Just looking at the 3,000, up to 3,000 above, just looking at the lot, it's very difficult to tell what was, how much square footage was there. I'm
That's not true. You could see it from Jupiter. I'm sorry, they can see it from the space
Well,
shuttle.
did anyone measure it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so that's what
That was done after
Ed
that.
Jacobs came
It wasn't
in,
part of
but
the
he didn't
original
go on the
plan.
property, and I have a giant map, which I was looking for, I brought it last time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a good guesser,
So,
until I see
Brian-
measurements.
So this needs to be, everything that I was told that's gonna be done on this. Because Tim had said to me, when he called me up and said, let's see, the date on that, he called me up maybe about a month ago. He did say, he says, they're gonna be done soon. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, they just surveyed the lawn. I said, the property, I said, that property's already been surveyed. He said, what are you talking about? When they came that day, Jason and his assistant, I said to them, they said, where's the fence that was here with all the woods in the back? I said, well, I'll get the picture for you, I brought to them. They said, they said, we can see why you're having a problem. Why wouldn't you have a problem with this grade? And Tim said, yeah, they surveyed it. I said, but I never saw them check drains. I said, you guys gotta check all the drains where the drains are supposed to be. And they said, what do you mean?
That's not conservation, I don't think, isn't that?
Drainage.
No, that's the
Well,
drain.
the
That's-
drainage would be the stormwater piece of the
Yeah,
puzzle.
that's-
That was-
Yeah, so they didn't.
So prior to everything that's going on, they were gonna do the septic, basically the septic, and that was the thing. After the fact, they did all this,
Right, they elevated the
And-
site greater than what was on the original plan. They expanded the
Basically-
driveway, they put roof drains
didn't
underground.
say anything to anybody, and
Oh, but
And
from what I hear, didn't get the permits.
Right, and I brought it to the attention before.
Yeah.
And when they raised the driveway, that was way early on. When they started bringing in fill.
And all of these
in
things needed to
July.
be addressed in their
Yeah.
general stormwater permit that they have to file for,
And they never did.
which they haven't filed yet, which I will tell you, I did hear on Friday, I got an email from Jason, and he's just, like all the other engineers right now, he's swamped. And
Yeah.
he apologized profusely that I have not had time to finish it up. He expects it into me this week. He says we're close to getting it all completed, but he said the calculations and everything else just took longer, and he said, we're just swamped.
How
I
did the
don't know.
Verassos get it?
And
She told me that it was sent to them, and they never got back to it.
Did we ever, have we seen an as-built?
the only as-built I saw was related to the septic system, and that's why they had to go figure out everything else that was done underground that was after the fact,
Yeah.
and that's why they had to redo, I'm assuming, because Jason said he was out there in the field, they were doing measurements to get the new elevations so they could put them onto the application plan and how they'd do corrective action for all
And
that.
that's what they're supposedly working on now to give to you by the end of the week.
Right,
So, since it's like I was talking earlier, seeming like this has been going on for what, a year or so, we'll give it to the end of the week. Now, is my opinion, and then
No,
start a fine,
I'll follow up with Jason
$100
and
a day
let him know that
until you get, until the
And-
plan starts, till you get an okay, start something, somebody says, okay, we're gonna start something, and from what I can understand, maybe we should have a state, somebody out there just to watch, and the Verassos can pay for it.
But we have the
Part of that
option of a
condition.
53G on any of these
That's
projects.
true. Oh, yep,
So-
that is true, I forgot about that. Maybe we should do a 53G,
Right. Once we get the filing in and we can,
but start a $100 fine, and by, within 30 days, if nothing is done to our satisfaction, they pay that fine for the 30 days, and they start it up again for $100 a day until we say, okay, this is something that is actually going on. It's coming to the point where it's getting fixed. Might take just a little bit longer, but if we can get a 53G in there, which they'll have to pay for, get this done to where it's supposed to be getting done, so it doesn't affect you. Yeah. It's just to go from there and see what happens now. I mean, if they
In the
'cause you get-
meantime, weren't we gonna have them do something about that swale?
Well, there was
Did we do it?
See, my understanding is that everybody thinks that just a plain old little swale's gonna be there. No, it has to be, we have to go by the design.
Well, then
Right,
that's
right,
how
and that's-
stormwater management gets into
And
effect
we have to
there.
go by where those I mean, I'm telling you right now.
But if it comes to the point where they don't, that if they're not.
and if they can't identify that there's
Yeah.
underground drainage system
Oh, I can show
installed,
them pictures.
then they can.
No, I know,
Right,
I know.
no, they can't put it on the plans.
Yeah.
And Jason says, I don't know where it is, it's not there, I can't find it.
Yeah.
Then they disconnect it and let the roof drains go as they were before.
But if it gets to that point, we shouldn't
It's-
allow it to get to that point. It might
Right.
have to come to the point where the town gets involved, they put a lien on the house, let them pay for it, fix it right, take care of his yard the way it's supposed to be, and let them deal with the lien on the house.
I know, like you said, you'll get a hold of Jason. This has to happen like,
Well, that's
No,
where
I
we
mean,
start.
it's-
We'll start. We'll just give to the end of the
I
week.
understand. Yep.
Just give to the end of the week, see if the plan comes in, or whatever is supposed to come in. If it doesn't come in, start the $100 fine, my opinion, if that's what you guys wanna do.
I agree.
Go from there, and then within the 30 days, something's gotta be
Right.
shown.
And I've given
you gotta
Jason the
show us
benefit of the
something's getting-
doubt, just like Scott with this
Yeah.
project that he presented,
But
that, I mean,
this, it's
right,
getting
it's-
ridiculous,
they-
and I feel bad for
Right, no, I-
John here,
My
because,
last
I
whole
agree.
year was ruined. My summer was ruined. I couldn't go in the yard.
well, that's
I
the thing.
couldn't look at it.
But
Well,
if you,
that's
I
another
drove my
story. Can they rehab your yard?
I mean, you should say it.
Could they do something to rehab it?
But if you wanted to sell your house last year, you probably couldn't even sell it.
I can't.
And I feel bad because
I
that's,
can't.
yeah, so that's the thing.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, so we'll see what, it gets to that point, and if worse comes to worse,
I don't know.
get the
if
town
I-
involved.
I don't
know
trust,
if
I don't trust them
$100
to
a
do.
day's even gonna budge them.
Well,
I don't
know, it's up to you
trust, I
guys.
don't trust them to even do it right. I'll tell you something, they're like unbelievable, because when I told the father, like, what they ripped up my dog's wires and ripped everything up, They're gonna say, well, the property squares off a little, it's not all his. Well, I had Jack Adams, I don't know if you remember Jack Adams, he was a surveyor, good surveyor. And it does veer this way a little bit, but you can see my mulch is like thrown way out. You can
From
see
the
half
water.
of my shrubs, oh yeah, half of my shrubs are all gone.
And that's violate your,
I had video of them dropping the tree. They had to take out my favorite tree.
Your tree?
My favorite tree, they had to take out because they ripped up
I
the
don't know,
roots.
maybe $100 should be, maybe more. I don't know if we can do that to the, what's the maximum you think we could do with it? I mean, we could probably do whatever the hell we wanted
Well,
to do to a
it-
point.
It's 100 the first and then 300 the second violation, so that after the 30 days, you could go to the,
And then we can do that then.
right.
He actually brought, I said, now we have to buy a tree. He said, the kid, because the kid was playing good guy, bad cop with the father. And he says, I'll give you the money for it. And he brought over money and I took it. And then my cousins are engineers. They were actually inspectors with the state. They said, give them money back.
And take
And it was cash, so I don't even have to say it,
No, I
because I
know,
mean,
yeah.
I gave it back.
Yep.
I said to him, I want nothing from you, I want this corrected.
Yes. They can pay for it, but they can replace it.
Exactly.
So,
And,
well, I'm sorry for what happened if we did anything on this board to screw that to the point where you got. But it sounds like these guys are just, they don't care about what's going on and it's making us look bad, making Tim look even worse because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And I'm not saying anything to you, but Tim goes on vacation, we all do, which I knew you were on vacation. I even tried calling you a couple times, like, what the hell, we didn't get back to me? But you're on vacation.
You lose a week or 2 weeks.
And stuff happens. So if you wanna go that route of starting the fines, giving it to the end of the week, see what goes on. I don't know, Carol or Steve, what you would like to do,
Well,
or
get the
suggestion?
letter, get the letter drafted and being in the mail it goes.
Yeah. Is that something you guys, any suggestions on maybe what you would want to do to help?
Yeah, it sounds like whatever we need to do to get this started this week, whether it's a letter and the fines, or, we'll secure that. So I have all the paperwork and everything that needs to be done, and then go from there.
Okay. Steve?
and they will be supervised when they do it, because they can't. That was
Well,
how
let's
it
go
can
back to the 53G thing too. I think that's something we want.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's something that probably should be.
And you know what
thrown
that is, right?
That's.
Outside engineering firms hired to well,
Overlook,
I don't know if they're there every day,
but they do come back and.
They're a third-party reviewer that's hired, and it can cover whatever we require them to cover.
They'll-
Whether it's supervising, any backfilling, anything that's,
why not?
And I appreciate,
I mean-
I appreciate your help, I do.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, the last year my house was hell. My wife and son, we'd be watching TV, and I'd start talking about it. It was like,
I know, I
it was
can
like I
tell.
drove them out of their mind.
And a year ago, you wouldn't think you'd have to be into this position where it comes, but here we are again, like some people, they don't care, they just do it and they say, they'll forget about it.
Yeah.
Well, you live next door, you can't forget
No,
about it
and they're the
because
type
it's
of
screwing
people,
you.
their landscaper came with an industrial sized machine, and I had done my leaves, he blew everything into my yard. He was in my backwoods blowing everything in. And he's got.
Sir,
green-
the 53G thing works very well, so I like that idea, if we include that.
That's great, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think
I
that's.
appreciate your being receptive. Thank you very much.
So, let's summarize. At the end of the week,
Well, maybe get a letter out.
what are we expecting from,
a general stormwater permit application in, so that we have the plans, the application, we can do a public hearing, notify all the abutters, as we have to do with a stormwater
in the
permit.
meantime, nothing's happening though?
They did plumbing, they did.
Right, but
Yeah, that's just.
give them,
That's different, that's different.
and then if it's not in by the beginning of the week, the fines start $100 a day on the 27th, moving forward.
And then we'll-
So we've
And
gotta
then
get a
third-
hearing ASAP.
the next, at least for the next, or at least let them know what's going on.
Right, if they
53G.
send in the application,
Yeah.
then realistically, we could have it on for the,
Third.
wouldn't make it for the 3rd, because we have to do the public ads. but we could have it on for the 17th.
Because, you know, it's gonna be raining, things continue.
Right, so we could have the June 17th hearing date.
But it can still
and they have
be,
enough
you
time
can
to-
still do the fines,
Right,
and if they wanna pay it, because they don't wanna do anything, then that's what they're gonna pay. At the end
and
of
after the
the day,
30 days, it goes up.
$300 a day,
And at
that's
that
up to
point,
them.
So
obviously,
we can, yeah,
then you can do the next.
And then worst comes to worst, if they still don't wanna pay, then obviously, you know, what, the town will have to get involved.
Right.
well, the main thing to me is to, however, beyond the swale, what were we thinking? But to
Well, it's finding
stop-
out
to
what
stop the
the-
overflow.
The roof drains, where they're going and where that water is going to and
So
how
that
much they're doing.
stops.
So
We're
the,
still getting runoff.
so the runoff and the roof drains are the issues that we need to deal with.
Well, plus my overflow where the water is, I have my septic pumped every year. And the guy said, John, why do you do it? You don't need to do it every year. And he even looked at where the, you know, the big, where the water leaches to, with the big thing that has holes in it. Well, that's what Jason and his son wanted to make sure wasn't gonna have a problem. It was actually filled. It was filled. I was wondering why when I walked over there, I was sinking in around it. It was filled. And their drains are not far.
So if that drainage gets taken care of the right way, that should go back to normal.
Right, you should try
But
out.
the 53G will be the big thing in this,
Right.
to make everything
Well,
work.
I appreciate it very much. I'm sorry, you know,
So no, I wouldn't be sorry, you gotta be,
You know,
this is something that shouldn't be affecting you,
yeah.
and it is.
Well, your health,
You wanna know something? Yeah, it has affected my health.
sure.
Yeah. So, and
Mental-
God forbid, if
Mental
somebody,
health, if nothing.
somebody goes to buy that house, if they sell that house, and all this stuff, they could get fined for all this. I mean, they're gonna get caught.
Well, again, the
It's gonna
key
catch up
is
to
how fast can we get that runoff into your yard fixed?
Well, I just don't think, even if it's not quick, it's gonna be fixed no matter what.
Right. I expected, but again, the engineering and how long it's taken to get projects.
Is that
through the
his
system.
engineer or?
Jason was the one that designed the septic system, and so he was the Barraso's engineer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
well, We gotta press them a lot harder.
Right,
Because, I
but
mean,
I
this
mean,
has been a year thing, that shouldn't have happened this long.
and he already had all the soil analysis done and everything else, and it was reviewed by an outside party for Board of Health anyways, so they already had a lot of the data, so it made sense to stay with.
Yeah.
So
But
when will
again-
we have more info?
I hopefully by end of the week, by Monday, I'll know what they're
Monday's a
doing.
holiday.
Okay.
And
Monday's a
Monday's a
holiday.
so Tuesday, we
So-
would know
So
what the status.
Tuesday, whether you get something or not, could you please call John or
Yeah.
let me know and I'll call John and at least give him a heads up saying,
Right,
we
the
haven't
letter's
heard
gone
nothing.
out, I haven't gotten anything in, and
just to let
The
you know what's
fines have
going on. The
started,
fines have
and we
started, just to give,
I think that's
And
one
I
of your
don't-
biggest issues is you're not getting the communication you want. Yeah.
yeah, and they're not doing they're doing whatever the heck they wanna do, it seems like, so that's not right. But
I appreciate it.
we'll see what happens and then,
Well, yeah, I wanna wrap this up. really.
yeah, so. We'll see what that can do for you and hopefully
Yeah.
if we can get that forward and start doing that for you. And
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very, very much.
come in here and speak whatever you want to speak with. Don't feel free because we understand.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
I'm not taking anything bad against you. If you want to swear at me or whatever, but you do what you got to do. I mean, things are got to get done, and we hope to help people to get things done. So,
Yeah.
all right,
I'm confident. Thanks so much.
All right, John.
all right.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Try to have a good night.
Okay, you too. Thanks again. Take care.
See ya. All right, so we just got those things to sign, and then the meeting
That's all I had.
is all set and is over. And you got Steve and Carol. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah,
Carol?
Oh, I hit the mute when she was,
Oh.
okay.
What was that, Carol? Anything?
She's talking, but.
Tim, you have Carol muted.
We can. Oh, there you
go.
are. Okay. Sorry.
Happens to me all the time. I just say, all of you guys are really great. And I'm glad to be able to work with you.
Oh, hopefully it'll all work out.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the hot weather there, Carol.
Thanks. See you later. Bye.
Have a good night, Steve.
Yep. Good night, all.
We'll see ya.
Take care.
Have a
Bye.
good one.
Well, it should be, moving to a conclusion then.
And,
All right, we're good?
yeah, is that everything? We're all set?
Yep.
Ben? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, entertain a motion to, adjourn.
Yeah, moved.
Second, I
All in
filled
favor?
it in.
Aye.
Sorry. Yeah, all set. All set, Ben?